Cayman Islands.
Talk Today is brought to you by Subway, open 24 hours in Countryside, Anderson Square in Georgetown, and Centennial Towers in West Bay. And by the Ministry of District Administration. Explore your history, explore your land, explore your sister islands. And Cayman Airways. Call them on 949-2311 to book your nonstop flights to Los Angeles and Panama. And now, Barbados. And Digicel, Cayman's bigger, better network. And Doctors Hospital. Peace of mind is important when life happens. Doctors Hospital, always there for you. Call 949-6066.
But I do have some questions.
There are more questions than answers.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
Talk Today.
What is on your mind, Cayman? If you are ready to talk, we are ready to listen. Here's your host, Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, welcome and thank you so much for joining us. And I feel like I should be in the pulpit in the front of the congregation saying, hey, my people, let's pray for our nation. Now, I'm not saying that because we have MP Chris Saunders in the studio with us. We're going to laugh a lot, but we're going to learn as he shares with us both from his expertise and as a sitting member of parliament. So stay tuned for Talk Today.
Avoid any statements or comments which are abusive, derogatory, malicious, or defamatory. Do not use indecent language or make any statement that is false or misleading. Call 1-800-534-8255, 949-6990, 949-8037, or WhatsApp us on 925-3261.
Email Talk Today at candw.ky. Let your voice be heard. And now, back to Sterling Dwayne Ebanks, Radio Cayman Talk Today.
Hey, welcome. Thanks very much for joining us. And I say this often and hopefully with not only great respect, but in the presence now of a Member of Parliament, Mr. Chris Saunders, as a sobering reminder to our society. And please, as a friend, but also as a honorable member of the House, guide me if I'm off. We should not in this country take for granted what we have here, the access to our elected officials and even other senior members of our community. Not just to call them, not just to ask for things, for references, not just interact with them, but to be able to have them in the capacity that you are now with Ms. Osty and others, to talk directly to the people, engage with the people. If you travel, you see the rest of the world. You don't have to go that far afield. And that doesn't exist. I mean, well, maybe it does for you in the circles you roll in by.
No, the thing about it is, Sterling, and good afternoon to you, Sterling, and thanks again for the invite. And, I say a good afternoon to your listening public. I think one of the advantages I can say for me personally that has helped me along the way is that, having spent, been doing high school in Kingston, doing university in New York, it gave me an appreciation for Cayman that, it's just unbelievable. When I say to people, when you're away at school and you're sitting at the airport coming back and you look out that airport window and you see that Cayman Airways Sir Turtle, the minute you step on board, it's a complete different feeling. You're feeling as if though you're going home, you're coming home. And for me, my routine was always every time I used to come home, my first thought was always to see my grandmother, Miss Mark, blessed memory of Champion House, because I had to go get my oxtail with my curry gravy and the rice. That for me was, and the thing about it is, my grandmother is one of them, love her with all this, hi, man for big, that kind of thing. So, when we were younger, she's like fattening us up. You go there like, no, mama, rather than give me 4 pieces of chicken, give me 3 pieces, you don't give me that much. Yeah. And then, no, she load you up. Yeah. And then, later on in life, after you're kind of chunky, like, hi, Chris, see, I get too big, and if you lose some of that weight, and I'm like, woman, you fatten me. But it is one of the things that you can get lost sometimes. And the thing about it is this. In our day-to-day activities, there's this Japanese scientist that did this study. I think he got a Nobel Prize for it. But he did a study on water. And our bodies itself is like 70% water. And part of his study was basically using the different vibrations, like how different sounds reacted, the frequencies on water and so forth. And something just as going by the sea and sitting by the sea, that calming effect. I mean, people save years to spend thousands of dollars to come here to vacation where we live. But how many of us actually take advantage of that very same thing? And then for us, vacation is running to Florida, going to the mall and doing the shopping. And these guys is like, so, I mean, we got over 1 million people coming every year, try to vacation here, and wish the ship was in port much longer so they can enjoy the island more. Yeah. But we don't do that.
That's the one thing, and I'm not saying this, I certainly won't shy away from it, but like doing that national, imprisonment where everybody's on the house arrest. Mm-hmm. I am mindful. I like my quiet time. I like my private space. And there were certain spots I would go close by the water, and I can take 5 minutes. Some days it was a lot longer. And it not just rejuvenated and re-energized, it grounded you. It caused you to appreciate, as you said. I laugh partially to what you shared. A friend shared the other day that his spouse, like others recently, there's some online thing that some guy says, oh, you got to go outside, now take off your shoes and put your feet in the grass. Because it grounds you, right? Mm-hmm. We did that. We would say that to them, and they would laugh at us. But now somebody else from somewhere else now online now posting about it, and go, why is it that it takes someone from somewhere to say something? And here you are reminding us, 2 million visitors come to our shows for the same thing that we take for granted. Yep. Now, how do we get to that space to appreciate what we have, to do everything to protect, promote, but somehow to preserve it, and not just the sand, the sea, and the sun, but the civility of our society?
The thing about it is this, Sterling, going back to maybe your management class, when you speak about Maslow hierarchy of needs. Yeah. And, you go through that pyramid, I think it's like, 5 steps on the pyramid. Yeah. But there are certain basic things that people need in place first. And I think where our people and a lot of people in our community get distracted is the fact that many of the basic needs aren't there. You know what I mean? And so you take something like the environment, for example. You speak to some people, and I notice, not to pick on any particular demographic, but there are certain people at a certain income bracket where the environment is the top for them. But if you're struggling to keep your lights on, to keep food on your table, you know what I mean? That is something secondary. And I think, and this goes back to the point I made last week, when you think of the population that we have and the amount of money that we have and the amount of resources we have in this country, I am not saying that every Caymanian can be rich. All I'm basically saying is that no Caymanian need to be poor. No Caymanian need to be struggling. That is all I'm saying. And I think this is where our focus is getting back to those basic needs. Right. And at the end of the day, again, in any society, your first degree is in economics. You would know this. The only group, or the group that really pays the taxes in any country, is really the middle class. The poor don't pay it because they can't afford it. And the rich, even though they pay it, but they pass it on to the middle class. So the middle class is the ultimate burden in terms of carrying the taxes in the country.
But they're being squeezed the most across all demographics.
Exactly,
right?
And it goes back to the point. I said, this is where, if you're looking for your representative, you know what I mean, you need to understand people who can identify with your struggles. I know some families where the only bill they pay every month is their credit card. Then they use that credit card to go pay their CUC. They pay the foster's bill, they pass everything. And so for them, that credit card is really the main thing. So they pay that one bill and then every month. But of course, the piles on the interest and everything else. And at some point, you hope and you pray that some lump sum or something comes in that give it a little reprieve where you can break the cycle.
Yeah, man. I want to invite you and others to consider something, right? Again, you guide me. I always think it's important to question the status quo. Is it good? Who's benefiting from it? What happens if it changes, right? So to Maslow's, his theory of hierarchy, and we know at the top is this, self-actualization, and at the bottom your basic needs, right? Have you ever tried, and if you haven't, consider it, invert that pyramid. Start what would be the top, make that be your bottom. So you get there and see what that does, right? walking across the parking lot. I usually don't talk at the school, but I don't believe in coincidences. Good friend, I love chocolate. There's no ifs, ands, and buts. And so I said, I would give up chocolate, but I'm no quitter, right? And it's a reminder of things. That satisfaction that you get, that motivation that drives you, it's the want in life, not the need. But the problem sometimes we confuse the two, and we confuse what the want should be, right? I need a way to get to work. I may want something, better than just a regular car.
Mm-hmm.
So if we do that inversion of his thing, what would society look like? And you probably end up with everything.
The thing about wants again is always unlimited, but the basic needs is like food, clothing, and shelter under the old system.
Yeah.
Because and the reason why I say that is if you look at the World Health Organization, I think since 1947, 1948, thereabouts, they have defined health as a state of complete physical, mental, and social well-being, and not just the absence of disease and infirmity.
Mm-hmm.
Is that mental and social well-being? We have always focused on the physical side of health. Now, you see more emphasis on mental health, and more is also on the social being of most people. And I think where we, Sterling, need to step back, and I'm a very basic person. I still drive, my vehicle is 20 years old this year. But I have a vehicle, bought it from an insurance company back in 2004 for $2,500. It had 4,106 miles, now it have about 192,000 miles in it. And it carries me where I need to get to. Mm-hmm. My kids, they used to tease me about getting a new car. My friends used to tease me about getting a new car. Now they just accept the fact that Chris is happy with that car. The radio works, the AC works, that's all I basically need. But the thing about it is this. If you step back and you ask yourself what it is ultimately as people that we want, most of the scientists will tell you, or the philosophers and everybody else, is that we're striving to be happy. Mm-hmm. That's what we want. We want to be happy. But then when you read all of the different philosophers, whether it be Socrates, Descartes, Kant, Aristotle, all of them, there are 4 building blocks of happiness. And we're close to a break right now?
If she doesn't tell me,
okay, good. Okay, no. No, the reason why I ask, because when you close to a break? Okay, I'll wait till after the break and we'll talk about those 4 building blocks.
You're a good fella, but you see?
I don't want to start something,
yeah,
and then after break in the middle of it, so I'll wait till we come back.
I almost want to joke and say that's what she said too, but that's it. But when we come back, that's what I'm saying, invert that pyramid, right? And we see where it comes. All right, MP Saunders is our guest. I'll try my best not to get in trouble. Susan got a hard up. Stay tuned for Talk Today.
Discover your dream home with Cayman National's home loan. Get up to 95% financing, repayment up to 40 years, and just a 0.5% commitment fee. Your interest rate? Depending on your risk factors, it'll be fixed or variable. Plus, you get a pre-approved credit card. This is a limited time offer. Dial 949-8300 or email lending@caymannational.com today.
This spring, say hello to Los Angeles. Explore foodie havens, local markets, art exhibitions, cultural shows, theater, you name it. Getting to LA is easy with 2 non-stop flights weekly aboard Cayman Airways. Midweek airfares are now on sale from just $410 CI round trip. Some conditions apply. Check out our socials for more inspiration and visit CaymanAirways.com to book. Now is the time to see LA your way.
The Cayman Airways LA midweek sale has been extended until February 24th.
Ladies and gentlemen, have you heard the news? Digicel is back with exciting offers that are too good to resist. Activate one of our brand new prepaid or postpaid plans today and experience telecommunications like never before. With more data, dedicated entertainment options like Netflix, YouTube, Spotify, and endless social text data for all your favorite platforms. Digicel is here to make sure you stay connected and entertained. Whether you are on a prepaid or postpaid, you will also enjoy dedicated roaming data for the USA, Canada, and the Caribbean. It's all about value, and Digicel has got you covered.
Now, more than ever, supporting your immune system is crucial to helping your body fight off illnesses like the common cold, the flu, and COVID-19. At Valley Med Pharmacy on Walkers Road and in Buttontown, we carry all the essential vitamins and minerals to help support your immune system and improve your overall health. Some of our top immunity support picks are vitamin C, vitamin D, zinc, elderberry, and quercetin, or the popular 7-in-1 immunity support. Our pharmacists are always on hand to help guide you and answer any questions. Visit Valley Med Pharmacy on Walkers Road or Buttontown. Live happy, live healthy with Valley Med Pharmacy.
From boat days to beach gatherings, leave the catering to Subway. Choose from small and large sandwich platters, double meat wrap platters, and top it off with optional cookie platters for dessert. Or ask about our Subway box to go with the option of 6-inch or foot-long sandwich, 1 cookie, and 1 bag of chips for all occasions and celebrations. Let Subway focus on the food so you can focus on the fun. Visit subway.ky for catering options. Subway. Eat fresh.
At Doctors Hospital, we know life happens, and usually when you least expect it. So when unexpected medical issues arise, you need quality care close to home. Located in the heart of Georgetown, our accomplished team of physicians and medical staff treat minor urgent conditions such as migraines, chest and abdominal pain, shortness of breath, burns, broken bones, open wounds, and more. 24 hours, 7 days a week with no appointment necessary. Peace of mind is important when life happens. At Doctors Hospital, we're always here just for you. Need to speak to someone? Call 949-6066.
Radio Cayman's Talk Today. What is on your mind, Cayman?
Hey, welcome back, and thanks for joining us. And of course, the phone lines are open if you want to call, but we wanted to be able to speak to MP Chris Saunders as we hear increasing about how it's going to be in session again in short order. But this is a nice discussion in philosophy. I like it, man. I thought your degree was in accounts.
No, I
didn't know accountants could think.
You'd be
my friends gonna give me a warm
Listen, Listen, going back to the building blocks of happiness.
Yeah.
And in no particular order, but like pretty much the 4 pillars.
Yeah.
I mean, one pillar is purpose.
Mm-hmm.
You know, everyone needs a purpose. Everyone needs a reason to get out of bed.
Mm-hmm.
I think Mark Twain said it best when he said, the 2 most important days in a person's life is the day they're born and the day they know why. So everyone on an individual basis has a purpose. Where the struggle for us or the challenge for us comes is we need a purpose on an individual level, but as a people, as a country, as a young nation, we also need a collective purpose at a national level. And I think one of the things that we have struggled with over the years is to find that common purpose, to find that that one purpose that brings everyone together. You know what I mean? And that I think is pretty much the charge for our generation, in the sense of finding that purpose.
Do you know your purpose?
Oh yeah. I know mine. I get to mine later on. Then another pillar that people need, and again, this is, you look at all the different philosophers, while all of them don't agree on exactly everything, but you find these 4 common threads amongst most of them. The other pillar that people need is the ability to grow. I don't care what it is you do, you want to get better in life. Whether it be a job, you want promotion. If you're an athlete, you want to run faster, be stronger. It is that ability to grow. You don't want to be stuck in one place. No one wants to be in the same mundane job over and over and over, even if you're doing the same thing, but it's the ability to grow.
You don't want to be spinning top in mud, as they say. Yeah.
The other pillar that people also need is the freedom to make mistakes. Most people's biggest fear is probably public speaking. But it is not public speaking, because people can speak in any environment. They go to family functions, they speak. Where the struggle is not the speaking, but the fear of being ridiculed, the fear of being laughed at.
Judgment.
Yeah. So it's that freedom to make mistakes, that freedom to be yourself.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that's why, most people, when it's in the darkness or they put on a mask, you see something else. And then, of course, the last pillar is love. Everyone wants to feel connected. They want to feel loved. They want to be a part of something. And it is those things, you know what I mean? And you look at right now, last year, I don't think it was last year, the year before, but quite in the recent past, the U.S. Surgeon General actually brought out a new pandemic in the United States called loneliness. Where social media has created the loneliness. You see, in the UK, they even have a minister of loneliness. Where you can still be in a crowd and still feel alone. So it is for us as a society now to really sit back and start looking at what it is that we can do to combat loneliness. This is, when you look about life, we're old enough to remember when we're dumb enough to be running behind the mosquito's truck, or your university have to be writing letters, or you're calling collect and that kind of stuff. I'm old enough to remember all of that. Yeah. So there are so many opportunities that we have today that we never had in yesteryear. So technology and science and advanced science have made life easier for people. But then the question is, why are people now feeling more unhappy? Why are people feeling more lonely? Yeah. We have not used our technological, we have not used our resources to let people feel a part of. And that's the reason, I said a couple of months back, I was addressing the young youth parliamentarians. And there was one question that one of the YPs, young parliamentarians, had asked me that really made me pause, stop and think. Being 6 years in elected, and being a political leader. And again, there is no handbook in terms of how it is that you do. You can just use the information you have, the resources you have, and try to make as best as informed a decision as you can. And the one question that young lady had asked me was, if there was one thing that I would like to achieve, as a elected representative, what would that be? And it was a great question, but for me, zeroed in on one thing, and that is going back to the calculation the scientists did, where they calculated the odds of you being born is 400 trillion to 1. That's an awesome number. You're born, you take it for granted because it's all of these people around you, but that's the fact of you being born, being 400 trillion to 1. And you realize the universe wants you to be here. So then for me, the one thing was, how can we make everyone feel valuable? How can we let everyone feel a part of the process? How can everyone realize just how important they are in the grand scheme of things? You look through history. It's not great people doing great things. It was ordinary people stepping up and doing extraordinary things. But everyone has greatness inside of them, one's given the right environment to do so. And while some people, greatness may be at a national level, other people, greatness can be at a local level. Could be right there in your homes.
What is it we hear?
Yeah,
some are born great, some achieve greatness, and somehow greatness trusts upon them.
For me, no. I look at my grandmother, I look at my mother, I look at my parents, I look at my aunts and uncles, and when I look at my cousins and what they have done, how they have inspired us, how they have moved on and so forth. That for me, as I tell anybody, it was just yesterday I was having a conversation with someone, and I'm like, they was asking about my mother. And, I'm a Susan. No, it was another Susan I was speaking to, and this is what triggered the conversation. And I was saying, if I had to even live 10 more lifetimes, I would want nobody else other than Rose Saunders, to be my mother. What my mother has instilled in me, what she have gone through with me. I'm one of them who's unashamed to say I'm my mama's boy. Granted, I'm the only boy of 5 kids. And everybody accept that I'm my mother's favorite. But
your sisters know that?
Yeah, no. They will tell you straight up. My sisters will all tell you that Christopher is mommy's. They actually call me Christopher. Now they will tell me Christopher is mommy's favorite, and I know I'm her favorite, and she have told me as much. But the thing about it is, for me, there is no other person out there that is greater than her. I look back at her life when she and Uncle George McCarthy, where they were growing up, the struggles that they had, the challenges that they have, and look at how the kids turn out and so forth. It's just remarkable. And for me, I don't think I will ever be able, as much as I may try, to replicate her greatness. I can try my best to pass on as much as I can to my kids.
And she would say that about her mother, and that's the thing, that greatness of that generation, right? As long as we do have a call joining us. All right. You go to the phones, Miss Susan? Is that okay now? Yeah, she's... Hey, welcome. Thanks for calling. Hello?
Yeah, stay.
Hey, how are you, man? Welcome to you.
Yeah, thanks. Reception. Yeah, I want to say special greetings to Chris as well.
Greetings.
All right, man. And I remember you calling the other day saying you go wait till he comes on the show to call him. He saw the promotion, man. You've been
man.
heavily
Remember,
promoting.
yeah.
I remember,
I had to,
man.
man. I mean, it's like really a breath of fresh air to hear a legislator come out and make a public declaration. This what really moved me more than anything else, with all of the, enchantment that he said really was that he was thinking or moving or was in the process of moving a consumer protection bill. Now, to the best of my knowledge, I could be wrong, but this is the first time I've ever heard, and I've been around a while, that a politician publicly came out and even made a suggestion that they would be willing to implement, to introduce something such as this, which I know how, the system works, it's a numbers game and thing like that. And I still have to give Mr. Saunders, kudos for even introducing it, because, where was it before? Any developing country, the one thing that they really need is that some form of protection in the event, of, you're dealing with merchandise. And I don't think it's anything better or more important at this stage in Cayman's development. It has to be one of the foremost essentials: consumer protection. I think a lot of people don't even realize the full extent of what that really means. We were talking about, I was observing you saying things like, the wants of people and things, but when they say the mind is willing but the flesh is weak, one's needs will always be great, but your wants fail be a master. Well, as leaders, and while I said I don't support the one man, one vote thing, and there's reason behind that, I would have preferred if we could have, but maybe that's asking too much, if we could have got the one man, one vote, but at the same time, I could also vote in, a general island-wide, pool. Because if someone moves in Bordentown a motion, why should it affect me in West Bay? Why shouldn't I have something to say? Why shouldn't I have some input? Why shouldn't I feel like I'm also to the point where if I'm vulnerable within it, that it may affect me directly, that I could say, but I guess as a developing country, we wouldn't get everything, not all the I's dotted equally well, or the T's crossed. You got to take some pros with cons and things and hope further down the line that we can get it developed, because everybody should have, in power especially, should have, which, it's never that way seemingly, but if we could adopt the way of leaving this place better than we found it, we could be so much better off. And we should always be thinking about the unborn, the people who's coming. There's no point of us having this so-called paradise if we can't afford to live in it. And the way things is now, how I seen and I heard Mr. Saunders talking the last time I was on the radio in regards to, like this disparity between the haves and the have-nots and people that, come and go. We probably have to be among, if not the most open-armed receptionists in the world to outside people. I can't think of another country that I know of that has such, like welcoming, opening arms, and is almost like come as you are, almost unconditional. And while hospitality has been great to me, because, I worked in tourism long before tourism was even established, before cruise ships. And I remember people coming here and crying, living out of water when they were leaving. They couldn't believe they had met people such as the true-born Caymanian. So it served us well, the hospitality thing. But again, times have changed to the point where we need stronger measures, better guards, better policies at the gate, because we have become very vulnerable. This is it. And the problem is, it seems to me like from my observations, it's like we don't want to offend anyone that visits. We become so dependent on the human resource element of, well, they bring in money. That seems to be the message it is. But it cannot be unconditional, because in that whole scheme of things, we are the ones, the people here, the native here. It has been proven throughout history. All you have to do is study history and you'll see what happened to neglect in leadership roles. We don't have to be anti. We just got to be pro-Caymanian, not reactive, proactive. This is what I see lacking. And I can't really heap, the praises or accolades on Mr. Saunders for coming out, because, listen, from whom much is given, much is expected. Here is the head that wears the crown.
Mm-hmm.
And, if I had anything to do with it, quite honestly, before I really work for somebody, what I would really like, which, again, maybe, that's wishful thinking, but I dare. And what I'm about to say may offend some people. And I don't know if it offends Mr. Saunders, because I don't know of him being a merchant. But the one thing that we should really try to get, and I know about the Westminster system and all that, winner takes all, don't do as I do as I say. Yeah, the whole scope of it. But we're unique. Let's, in a sense that, where we are, who we are, let's try to see if we can implement the people of Cayman Islands. Remember, you had a call yesterday. I listen a lot, even though I talk a lot, but I listen more. And I filters what I listen. And I remember, I think it was Mr. Sabamba, I think, if I'm not, unphrasing his name right. He mentioned, what is the people of the Cayman Islands voting for? Do they know? You know what I'm saying? It's become a formality. We have to be able to scrutinize and demand more from elected people. And they should also know, again, as I said, here is the head that wears the crown. They should be expected and know what that they're under pressure in the sense of producing. Just not good enough just to give lip service or whatever. Actions speak louder than words. Mm-hmm. But, I don't want to stretch it out anymore. There's a whole lot more we could talk about. I know, but you have other people. Yeah, I just wish that it was something that could be implemented. And I know it can. I don't know where the will is. It's a lack of vision is what happens after that, right?
The people perish, huh?
Where there's a lack of vision and will, people shall perish. But anyway, I just wish we could get some commercial-free sessions like this.
All right, man. All right. Well,
thank you very much.
Thanks very much. And with respect, we're going to quickly pause. You're welcome to call back as anybody else is. And hear what advertisers have to share. Stay tuned for Talk Today.
At Doctors Hospital, we know life happens, and usually when you least expect it. So when unexpected medical issues arise, you need quality care close to home. Located in the heart of Georgetown, our accomplished team of physicians and medical staff treat minor urgent conditions such as migraines, chest and abdominal pain, shortness of breath, burns, broken bones, open wounds, and more. 24 hours, 7 days a week with no appointment necessary. Peace of mind is important when life happens. At Doctors Hospital, we're always here just for you. Need to speak to someone? Call 949-6066.
Find your dream car with a Cayman National Vehicle Loan. Enjoy 100% financing, up to 8-year repayment, and a 7% fixed interest rate for the first 5 years. For eco-friendly cars, we'll waive your commitment fee. This only applies to new vehicles. Call 949-8300 or email lending@caymannational.com today.
Ladies and gentlemen, have you heard the news? Digicel is back with exciting offers that are too good to resist. Activate one of our brand new prepaid or postpaid plans today and experience telecommunications like never before. With more data, dedicated entertainment options like Netflix, YouTube, Spotify, and endless social text data for all your favorite platforms. Digicel is here to make sure you stay connected and entertained. Whether you are on a prepaid or postpaid, you will also enjoy dedicated roaming data for the USA, Canada, and the Caribbean. It's all about value, and Digicel has got you covered.
The 2024 Cayman Arts Festival is here, celebrating 20 years of world-class performing arts in the Cayman Islands. From February 18th through March 1st, featuring 8 unique performances, a mix of Cayman and international renowned musicians. View the full lineup of events or get your tickets at www.caymanartsfestival.com. For more information, call 922-5550 or email inquiries@caymanartsfestival.com. The 2024 Cayman Arts Festival, February 18th through March 1st.
Wouldn't it have been grand if you had purchased land 30 years ago? It may not be 2020, but a perfect vision has never been more clear. Cayman Brac and Little Cayman, poised for growth with an eye on the future. Your land, your history, your future. Discover all that our sister islands have to offer.
Radio Cayman's Talk Today. What is on your mind, Cayman?
Hey, welcome back, and thanks for joining us. And of course, we have some calls on line. We have MP Saunders in the studio. Before we take the call, if there's anything you wish to...
No, we just take the calls and then I just respond back to everyone one go.
All right. As we join the callers, welcome. Thanks for calling.
Thank you for taking my call.
Thank you for taking time to share with us.
I was just sitting here listening, and I heard Chris saying, no Caymanians need to be struggling. Well, I don't know who those Caymanians are, because I know the rootgrass Caymanians are struggling. They must be the new Caymanians that are not struggling. And
no, that's not what I said.
Okay, just a minute. Let me finish, and then you can answer my question. Thank you. And they also say that no one needs to be poor. Well, no one would like to be poor, but there's a lot of poor people in Cayman. And if the MLAs would get up off their A and move around the neighborhood that the people put them in and see and dig into the bush and where they live or whatever needs they are, you would see how many people are poor, and no one wants to be poor, but there are a lot of poor people in this island, and I know for certain they are trying very hard, because I do myself have people that are in need. And I can say for one thing that MLAs don't really come out till the next year before the election, starting with all these laws and what they're going to do. And as soon as you put them back in, they're changed, and they don't even cross on the road. They don't even hold up their hand to wave you or anything else. But every one of them is just a pile of bull. And all they do is talk what they're going to do. 4 years come, you don't see none. Soon as election coming up, you see them getting on the radio, you see them shaking hands, you see them walking around. People are dying in the neighborhoods, and no one would pick up the phone and call and say they sympathize with you. I know personally, and I'm not going to say no more, but if the cap suits you, wear it. Have a good afternoon. More to come. Thank you.
Mrs. Saunders, thanks for the caller for sharing.
Whatever caller, that was it?
One more call, Ms. Susan? And she pulls up the caller, or she wants to do it? All right. Okay, we'll take the next caller. Welcome. Thanks for calling.
Hey, good afternoon, Sterling.
Hey, afternoon. How are you?
I am good, Sterling. Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, don't mind me saying, man.
Good afternoon to the good afternoon to the member. How you doing?
Good afternoon, bro.
Good afternoon, man. I had to call to agree with that lady there, because that's the same thing I be speaking about all the time in Sterling. But what I want to say to you, Mr. Saunders, while you're on there, and I spoke to Dwayne yesterday regarding certain things, but I said I wanted to to speak to you when you came on, because I remember last week when you were on the show, I was watching you on the YouTube, and I must say Sterling looked better without his brace, that prayer, and I must say, yeah, it looked good with your brooch on your jacket, so cheers to all two of them. But with saying all that, because we always make a joke, me and Sterling, so with all that said, the situation with Caymanians with the medical, I can't get over how, because I went Grand Cayman some weeks ago, and I was there sitting waiting for my wife to be dealt with, and a young man was sitting in the hospital, and I clearly can understand he seemed like he not a person that working, especially for government. But the boy was sitting there, the young man was sitting there in a concern of how he got pay for this medical bill. Because if you go in to take a CT scan or a CAT scan or anything of that nature, that is expensive to do. And the young man sitting there wondering how he got paid this bill as a Caymanian, as a young Caymanian. And I tried to decipher his language that he was speaking, and I don't want to call no district of the Cayman, but I kind of figure out where he from, because when his mother spoke, and his mother was trying to calm him down and tell him, don't worry about it, we'll have it covered, don't worry about it, we'll try to get it taken care of. How it is that we can elect members after members after members, year after term, 4 years after, for the last 20 years. And you got to tell me that Caymanians have to sit down and worry to go to a hospital in order to be taken care of for their own benefit, for their own health. This is something that people are taking lightly when it comes to these kind of events. And I really and truly, like what our lady was saying just now, they will come and tell you no, because election time soon come up. Oh, we got to deal with all that. We got to deal with all that medically. But it doesn't matter who in there as in charge of whatever portfolio. We have to make sure in the system, and Mr. Saunders, I know, and I listened to you many times, when you was on the power side, and now when you're on the weak side, I call it, whether you on the government side or the opposition side, you are a man of your word. You stick to what you say. You remind me plenty of Arden. You stand for what you say. Our people need help. Our people are in problems. And we can't hear from no politician. We can't hear from them. We can't see them. We can't deal with them in no how. Because when they hear you come in, they grab a flight and they gone to Grand Cayman, or they gone to Miami or whatever. These kind of things we have to stop. We have to make sure that our people in Cayman are taken care of, and that is our first priority. And when it comes to politics, people gotta understand that being a politician and being a member of the House, it does not revolve around you. It revolves around every living soul that you are representing. That is what it is to be a politician. And I don't understand how it is that our leaders that are in charge, especially the medical facility, can have people in a problem like that. I would not have even want to comprehend that young man going home, and the next day I hear on the news, certainly a young man had died. That would have ripped me to pieces. And I'm sorry, gentlemen, that I've taken up talking so much, but I would want to sit and listen 2 seconds before you cut me off, what you would have to say regarding that.
I can answer that question for you right now, before you go anywhere. One, that's one of the things that I campaigned on. And two, I am proud to say to you that when I was, as you said, on the power side, we took we got the funding necessary to expand Cineco, to literally offer to expand the insurance for many Caymanians, both young and old. That is something I campaigned on. I took that in my first term as a motion The government accepted it. It went nowhere. And if you look back at even when this government came into power, they gave a commitment when we first formed the PAC government to actually go with the free health care for both seniors and children. But my friend, I want to say this to you. And this is one of the this is the part of the conversation that most politicians won't say, but I will say it. My first crash course in elected politics came at one of my first motions that was seconded by Tony Eden of Savannah at the time, was to increase the minimum sentences on child molesters. I had about maybe 15 or 16 people reach out to me to discuss that motion. Then we had another motion that dealt with the freeness for World Cup football in terms of what games should be free and so forth. I had probably about over 400 people reach out to me about free World Cup. I remember saying to Tony Eden at that time, you mean to tell me that the free games on World Cup is far more important than it is for increasing the minimum sentence on child molesters? And, the first caller who came in first, they were talking about immigration. I'm going to give you a headline. January 7, 2022, the PR went out that says, 41 PR grants revoked for non-payment. And both the Compass and we did that. The knives came out for me. I didn't hear one person get up and say, you know what, about time somebody deal with these people who don't want to pay for PR and revoke it. The following month, February 28, 2022, the headline in the Compass read, 10,600 work permits deferred over the last 10 months. I sat down there. I took licks from anybody who would throw them, from elected members, from people in the community, from business people, and not one person. I remember listening to the talk shows, calling and finally said about time someone sit down there and actually start deferring permits so Caymanians can get opportunities. No. Then, just before I left we call it the power side, we agreed that we recognize the abuses that we were having in the temporary work permit system. We agreed, it went through the caucus, and it went through by cabinet, that we agreed that anyone who was applying for a temporary work permit had to apply on the government portal. So they can't say that we are increasing cost of businesses. This is the government portal so people can see the jobs that are coming in, because at that time we realized when we start processing more temporary work permits than full-time work permits. Within less than 5 days after I left, not even a cabinet meeting, it was done by round robin. They basically repeal that. And again, not one soul recognizing all of the abuses that goes on in the system. Let me tell you something, my friend. When you think those people coming for us with the knives out and everything else, when we are taking the licks, not one person get up and say, you know what, finally, at least somebody's doing what they're supposed to do. They sit down there and they wait till when it get worse. And for those who would want to do exactly the same thing, they sit down and say, boy, I see Chris taking all them licks, I don't want that too, so I'm not going to say nothing, because nobody comes out. Right. Nobody comes out and defend when we're doing what we're supposed to do.
Mr. Saunders, I know Ms. Susan is saying this is when we don't like to check, but let's pause for the news. Thank her for letting us go into the second. When we come back, no, that's fine. Thank Susan, she's in charge. When we come back, we'll continue with, stay tuned for Talk Today.
From Radio Cayman's newsroom, this is Headlines. Local, regional, international news.
With your latest headlines, I'm Felicia Rankin-Zollins. The Department of Vehicle and Driver's Licensing advises the public that all its offices will be closed on Wednesday, February 21st, to facilitate a mandatory staff meeting. All offices of DVDL will resume business as usual on Thursday, February 22nd. In international news, authorities in Colorado have confirmed the death of a 34-year-old local resident 4 days after he was bitten by one of his two pet Gila monsters. The creatures are venomous reptiles native to the southwestern United States. Their bites are not normally fatal to humans, but an expert told the BBC's U.S. partner CBS News that the victim may have suffered an allergic reaction. The last human death from such a bite is believed to have been in 1930. A woman accused of stalking Harry Styles sent him 8,000 cards in less than a month, a court has heard. Myra Carvalho sent the pop star handwritten letters and ordered a series of cards for him online, which were sent to his address. Ms. Carvalho did not enter a plea and was remanded in custody for the case to be heard at the same court in April. These are your headlines. I'm Felicia Rankin-Zollins.
Radio More news available at www.radiocayman.gov.ky. Check out our social media pages: Facebook, YouTube, X, formerly Twitter, Radio Cayman Headline News.
The Health Services Authority has over 120 world-class physicians offering the most comprehensive range of specialist services on island. Our dedicated team of professionals provide the highest quality care in orthopedics, interventional radiology, women's health, geriatrics, and a host of other specialist areas. We are a JCI accredited organization with a proven record of excellence. At HSA, we are committed to caring for you. For more information, visit hsa.ky.
Radio Cayman is pleased to feature this special Sister Islands historical vignette brought to you by the Ministry of District Administration and Lands. Explore your history, explore your land, explore your Sister Islands.
Born in Watering Place, Cayman Brac, on the 8th day of July, 1936, Captain Fred Elman Scott was the fifth child born to Nalio and Vera Scott. Captain Scott worked the seas for over 52 years, a career which saw him span the global currents. In 1953, he joined his first ship, the Beretta, a local cargo vessel, signing on as deck boy, working his way up to bosun. In 1955, he joined National Bulk Carriers, working his way up to able-bodied seaman. In 1959, he signed on the Ore Meteor to go to Marine School in New York, attaining a third mate's license. He joined the Bulk Petrel as third officer, where during one voyage he was solely responsible for using Morse lamp signaling to save a sister ship which had run aground. He continued to flourish and attained second mate, chief mate, master mariner, and radio operator licenses. In October of 1969, he took a job on oil exploration ships as a captain in Brazil. Captain Scott would later move from Brazil, where he spent the next 20 years piloting cruise ships and tankers in Grand Cayman.
Radio Cayman is pleased to feature this special Sister Islands historical vignette brought to you by the Ministry of District Administration and Lands. Explore your history, explore your land, explore your Sister Islands.
Explore your history, explore your land, explore your Sister Islands, the ultimate staycation experience. Your culture, your freedom, the land that time forgot isn't gone. It's your Sister Islands.
Discover all that our Sister Islands have to offer.
Radio Cayman's Talk Today. What is on your mind, Cayman?
Hey, welcome back, and thanks for joining us, and thanks to MP Saunders for sitting with us. And if I might, again, be guided through you, the one thing that I think we all ask for, but it's the one thing that very few of us want, truth, honesty. Scripture talks about it, be cut into the bone and those kind of things. How do you, you laugh?
Listen, Sterling, I can tell you something. Before we had started the show, we were talking about, I guess, our different parents. And I only have one regret, 51 years earlier this month. And I only have one regret in my life. One. And that is, when my father was alive, I judged him a little bit too hard. I looked at what it is that he could have done different as a father, not realizing what I could have done different as a son. I know that I have two sons of my own, and growing a daughter and growing a son are complete different things. I never got a chance really to thank him for what it was he instilled in me and what it was he has prepared me for. And, the first time I ran in 2013 was literally so my father could at least vote for me before he passed. And he passed in 2014. This year makes 10 years now that he has passed. So that very first election, really and truly, when I ran in 2013, and after seeing the results and the momentum, I just said, you know what, let me just continue it. And that's how we basically continue 2017 and 2021 and so forth. But the first election in 2013 really was for my father. And the red tie that I wear on my campaign was one of the last presents I got from him. So thank God it was a red tie and it wasn't some other crazy color.
It could be blue, man.
Yeah, but the thing about it, but I want to go back to what the last couple of callers had touched on. And, going back to the same thing, I mean, this is something that we sit down here. And, you reference to Arden. And I can tell you, I'm one of them who I have called Arden and I said to him that I really hope to God Arden runs again. I really do miss Arden in the Parliament of the Cayman Islands, if I must say so myself. If there's one MP that have actually taught me the most during my freshman term was actually Arden McLean from East End. The knowledge that he has is just unbelievable. Yeah. You know what I mean? And while, the people of East End has made their decision, I really hope that is something that you will basically reconsider at this point, because he's a great value to this country. I can tell anybody that.
But Chris, from that perspective, right, if I might, Mr. Arden McLean, we have this system of vote, and in particular, long ago, under the old system, the voters of East End had one candidate, one vote. Whether there were 10 or 2 on the ballot, they could only vote. Versus in Georgetown and Bordentown and West Bay, for instance, that may have had 4 or 6 or what number. But with that in mind, to the caller, the gentleman earlier, he said a national vote. So someone like Mr. McLean.
Actually, I actually made a note of that from the first call. It wouldn't reference, because some of the other Caribbean islands, some of the other overseas territories actually have what they refer to as at-large candidates. And I think that is a hybrid that can work with, you have a caller?
We got 2 calls.
Okay, we take the calls.
We
That's
can
the most
about,
important part.
No, thank you for that. Yeah. So we take 1 call on the regular line and then 1 call on the WhatsApp right after. Hey, welcome. Thanks for calling.
Good afternoon.
Afternoon, sir.
Afternoon.
How are you today?
Oh, not bad. Good afternoon to Mr. Saunders, sir.
Afternoon, bro.
I wish you all the best, Mr. Saunders, as well as the rest of representatives, because I know that your job is not easy when you take a chance to defend the people, and you're in a position where everyone is looking and all that. I know it's not an easy thing. So I wish you all the best. But I would like if you could probably break it down for us as the people, the specifics on consumer protection, the consumer protection bill, the proposal, and also this thing about investing in Cayman, because the thing is, it's good, and we're always supposed to invest in the youth, but you got a lot of people that, for example, they lost their homes and stuff like that. They became poor, and they have a hard time in life, and I think that government could, people could still find it within their hearts to invest in a lot of the older people. Some of them are multi-talented people, and they could make a lot of money for the country. And, if, for example, you invest in them and they put something back in the country, you put, say, a certain amount of money into their project, and they forward money back, and put, like I said, something back.
Right.
I think that's good. And another thing too, I believe that well, no, I don't want to say too much.
No, fair enough. Yeah. We'll pick up on that. We certainly will go through the consumer protection legislation, and I think this is something Mr. Do. But unless Mr. Saunders wishes to jump in, we'll go to the other caller.
Sure, we'll go to the other caller.
We'll join the WhatsApp call now. Welcome. Thanks for calling.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon, Dwayne, and good afternoon, Mr. Saunders. I don't know if am I getting an echo here?
We hearing you okay, Mr. Saunders?
Clear.
Yeah, but hang on.
Okay.
I mean, my French isn't so good. Bonjour. Is that better for you over there?
Bonjour, ça va, ça va bien.
Bonjour, ça va, si. Yeah.
Donc, tu parlez-vous en français?
Parlez-vous le français? On peut.
Well, un peu. Now, well, first of all, let me congratulate Mr. Saunders for continuing really to be engaged in the public debate. I mean, I've been following him. I listened to your program, by the way, Mr. Saunders, on Friday, but I couldn't call in because I listened to you later.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. But let me start by saying this, and I don't want to take long. When I came to Cayman 2003, I was, of course, learning about the society. But one thing that I learned very, very quickly was that Caymanians were not really in charge of the society, the government, and like they were not really in charge of the major events. Now, I don't mean to say that in a disrespectful way.
Mm-hmm.
I think that it is something that is accepted today by a lot of people in society. And that was a bit of a disappointment for me because I found out that there were status holders, people who had come to Cayman the same way that I had come to Cayman, who considered themselves to have a better right to tell me what to do, and also to tell even Caymanians, even generational Caymanians, what to do. And that is what started to get me really interested in this topic, because some people might be wondering, oh, you are a foreigner. In any case, why are you so interested in this? That is really what got me going. But let me make a point which the other caller mentioned. He mentioned my name and said one of the things I had said before. To me, in Cayman today, the fundamental question that people have to ask is, what are people voting for? In 2003, when the mass grants were given, one government was removed the following year purely on the basis of immigration. But has that changed today? No, it hasn't changed. And it was interesting to hear what was said on the program on Friday regarding what happened to this immigration committee. I had called Dwayne the previous week to say I suspect there's interference in that committee. People don't want it to do what it wants to do. And it seems to me that those suspicions have been confirmed. So if government can't do what it wants to do for its people, and they are doing more what other people who are not Caymanians, put it that way, then what is changing? In 2003, after mass grants were given, what happened after that? They said, well, okay, we'll introduce rollover, and rollover is going to exist also in government. But within a few weeks, there was another circular to say, no, it won't be introduced in government. So you have already opened the floodgates with 3,000 grants. Instead of fixing the problem, you have made it worse. And then later on, the TLEPs were given status. And 20 years after today, it hasn't been fixed. And even the attempt to fix it now clearly has run up into a problem, because we expected this report in September. It is not ready today. There's clearly a problem. Second problem, which is related to that, is the preferences in jobs for Caymanians. This again, even in my time, the 20 years I've been associated with Cayman, it has been there, but nobody has fixed it. Now, Malcolm X used to say that you are not going to tell your oppressor to intellectually convince him that he should give you your freedom, because he knows why he's oppressing you. It's not an intellectual issue. It's how you fight to get your rights. The issue of preference in jobs, Section 26 and 41 of the Public Service Management Law does not give preference to Caymanians, because it says that you can only prefer a Caymanian over a foreign applicant if the qualifications are roughly at the same level. Does that give you any advantage? No, it doesn't, because it means that if they want 5 years experience, a Caymanian has got 5 years experience, a foreigner has got 10 years, they should give it to the foreigner. But that's not the way things happen in other societies. In other societies, they say if a local person qualifies, then they should get the job. Then there's a related issue also, that a person, for example, is a deputy director in a government institution. The director retires. Then they advertise that job all over, practically all over the world. And then the Caymanian who's been sitting there for 20 years knows how to do the job. He now gets somebody from outside to come and be a boss over him. To me, until those two things are fixed, And as well, unless there is certain jobs specified for Caymanians only, it will never work. Why are people talking about giving preference for Caymanians when they could do those three things very easily? They haven't been done for the last 20 plus years. And yet people are still saying, oh, no, but let's give preference for Caymanians. Everybody who I've ever heard call on a talk show talks about that. Why is it not being fixed? Another thing they were talking about, well, if you say job for Caymanians only, that won't work. But that's rubbish. No, I shouldn't use that word. I should say I disagree with that with respect. Okay, I disagree with that because, you see, what you can do is you start off with maybe even 10 jobs. You put them on the list, 10 jobs, and then you keep in touch with ESO. ESO will tell you, oh, in this job we can no longer restrict because Caymanians, there's nobody who can do this, and you remove that job, and then you keep working on the list, so that can become an additional way in which you deal with that issue, together with the other good things that you talked about, which have been done, to ensure that work is working properly. So for me, at the end of the day, I'll tell you what I think. In Cayman, there's need for constitutional reform. There's need for greater accountability of people in government, particularly. I think that Cayman, in terms of you as Caymanians, you must accept that you've already lost the country. I'm sorry if I sound too extreme. You have already lost the country. You are not in charge. What you need to do is take the country back, create a better balance between people who come in and people who are in Cayman. But if I've got time, I want to mention one thing relating to legislation. This will be the last one. Mr. Saunders, I really congratulate you for taking up this issue relating to consumer protection. And I hope that you can include, on the lines discussed with Dr. Steve, a provision in it to deal with the matter of mortgages.
And the banks, yep.
Yeah, exactly, that one. I really think that would be a great addition. But I want to address also the more generalized issue where I heard you say, I think, that you want to engage a lawyer within the independent parliament to help you write legislation. I think that will be very, very good. This is something that I had advocated when I was in government, to say, well, look, after I left government, I said, well, look, in other countries like Australia, they have a system where the legislative drafting department allocates a certain number of hours per week to draft legislation for the opposition. Okay? Now, that is one formula that could be used. But there are others who would prefer, like what you suggest, to have their own drafter within Parliament who will be helping them to do that. And I think that would be great. But let me end on this. When I left the government, before I ever called a single talk show, a generational Caymanian approached me and said, you know what? Why don't you come and teach in my law firm, in my training company? Come and teach your courses which you have designed. I designed a number of courses, but the one I should talk about now is a course on the legislative process. How do you get chief officers, heads of department, those kinds of people? How do you get them to know how to work on legislation so that they can create an optimum partnership with the drafters? A lot of people in Cayman have proposed legislation, but they don't know that you have to be trained on how to do that. Mm-hmm. You can do a one-day course like mine. You can do a 3-day course. In India, you have to do it like over 10 weeks. And you know who fought me when I tried to teach that in government? It was the Attorney General and the other big bosses in the portfolio of legal affairs. Why? Because they wanted people to remain ignorant. When I tried to teach it with this private company owned by a generational Caymanian, after I had left the government, I tried to teach the course, and also we offered that we could do some legislation for them at a very reasonable price. We were boycotted by the government. Meanwhile, ministers were getting up and saying, well, we can't draft this legislation because, you see, there's nobody to draft it. And we offered them very good rates. Do you know the person, you will remember this, the person who drafted the legal practitioner's bill was paid something like $50,000 for about a 100-page bill. $50,000. That came out because Mr. McLean asked for a legal opinion, and he's the one who actually got that information. We said we won't charge you that, because how many bills can we draft for you if we can charge you $50,000 for one bill? We will charge you a fraction of that, then we can do a flurry of bills. we were boycotted. And to me, that problem has to be fixed. And the reason we were boycotted is because there are people in the private sector who only want their people to draft that legislation so that they can put in it what they want. My attempt to try and help Caymanians learn how to write legislation and so was fought. And it wasn't because I'm not qualified. I teach legislative drafting online right now to Canadian lawyers at a Canadian university. I used to go to Rome in the 90s to teach legislative drafting. That's how I first met my first Caymanian.
And you wrote a book too?
I wrote a book too,
Yeah.
and all that and so forth. So I really commend you in these directions you've been going. And by me criticizing this work permit thing and the immigration issue, I know there are some people in government who are good and are trying to do that, but they are always being outnumbered by the other side. But the main thing, there's need for accountability and for need to respond to what people talk about, not to respond to what the private sector say. Private sector is important. They are good partners with government, but at the moment, the problem is that they are governing instead of just being partners with government. That is 15 minutes of very kind time.
No. One of the things I wanted to say to you, and the reason why I called for that independent legal draft for Parliament and in terms of getting legal services. Under the Constitution, the Attorney General is the legal advisor to both the Cabinet and the Parliament. Now, in Cabinet, that is basically run by the elected government, but the Parliament consists of members of the opposition. And this is not something new because I raised this on the floor in a previous debate. I sent an email to the Attorney General looking legal advice on the region on Wednesday, September 13, 2023 at 2:23 a.m. because that's normally the time I'll be up doing all of my stuff. My response to my letter actually came back January 31st, 2024 at 12:27 p.m. Now, for me as a member of Parliament, going through the legal channel of engaging the Attorney General, who by Constitution is the legal advisor to the Parliament. You know what I mean? I can't be doing the people work where I'm asking for advice on September 13th, 2023, and then the response come back January 31st, 2024. I mean, but I do accept the fact that, it's very busy in his chambers, they're probably understaffed and everything else. But for me, I needed that information. You know what I mean? I needed that information in terms of preparing for the budget at the time. And of course, I did not get information back to include that as part of my budget address. Now, do I have the resources, the financial resources to then go out and hire
private company?
I don't. You know, so but this goes back to the point now where Parliament needs to start making these resources available. I have right here ton-load of motions that all passed in my first sitting. All of them not implemented, coming right down. And this is one of the reasons why I moved away from motions this go around. And as I said it before, and I issued the bill was done by the Law Reform Commission. They started the process from November 20, 2015. This bill was published in 2016. Sat there in terms of the Consumer Protection Bill. Ian Paget-Brown and those guys did an excellent job in terms of putting it together. You know what I mean? The bill was about 98% complete. And I say, you know what, I have the time on my hands though. I'm not going to waste any time in the motions where someone has said, oh yeah, we'll accept your motion, and then it goes nowhere. And this is the reason why we actually went through the process. And I can tell you, even with this bill being 98% completed, just to put on the extra 5%, extra 2% on it, I can tell you it was considerable time, was even considerable resources just to get that to finish. Right. And I'm like, if I had to do this bill from scratch, I could not have afforded to do it. That's the reason why this is the first time in this century and the second time in Cayman's Parliament or Cayman legislative history where a bill is actually being brought by a member that's not a government bill because of that same thing.
I want to ask you about that because that's something that maybe constitutional members don't appreciate. And as you shared, Mr. Saunders, with that, we just pause quickly, take the break. Almost pretend as if we're talking to, Mr. Ezra giving us a constitutional lesson, right? Stay tuned for Talk Today.
From boat days to beach gatherings, leave the catering to Subway. Choose from small and large sandwich platters, double meat wrap platters, and top it off with optional cookie platters for dessert. Or ask about our Subway Box to Go with the option of 6-inch or foot-long sandwich, 1 cookie, and 1 bag of chips. For all occasions and celebrations, let Subway focus on the food so you can focus on the fun. Visit subway.ky for catering options. Subway. Eat fresh.
This spring, say hello to Los Angeles. Explore foodie havens, local markets, art exhibitions, cultural shows, theater, you name it. Getting to LA is easy with 2 non-stop flights weekly aboard Cayman Airways. Midweek airfares are now on sale from just $410 CI round trip. Some conditions apply. Check out our socials for more inspiration and visit CaymanAirways.com to book. Now is the time to see LA your way.
The Cayman Airways LA midweek sale has been extended until February 24th.
You asked, and we listened. The Water Authority's new customer portal is here. The new and improved platform lets you manage your account easily and more independently from a user-friendly design. With the new customer portal, you can view and pay your bill online, schedule bill payments, make payments on multiple accounts at one time, manage tenant and landlord accounts, view your consumption history, make service requests, and so much more. The service is also available to tenant accounts. Visit www.waterauthority.ky to sign up today.
The best foundation you can wear is glowing, healthy skin. The offices of dermatologist Dr. Wayne Porter specialize in enhancing your skin's well-being. Whether you're seeking advanced skincare, including any skin cancers, Botox, filler, cosmetic skin enhancements, or simply looking to reduce wrinkles, Dr. Porter offers a full-service dermatology and dermatological surgery practice. For more information, email drporterkman@gmail.com or call 946-9020. That is 946-9020.
Discover your dream home with Cayman National's home loan. Get up to 95% financing, repayment up to 40 years, and just a 0.5% commitment fee. Your interest rate? Depending on your risk factors, it'll be fixed or variable. Plus, you get a pre-approved credit card. This is a limited time offer. Dial 949-8300 or email lending@caymannational.com today.
At Doctors Hospital, we know life happens, and usually when you least expect it. So when unexpected medical issues arise, you need quality care close to home. Located in the heart of Georgetown, our accomplished team of physicians and medical staff treat minor urgent conditions such as migraines, chest and abdominal pain, shortness of breath, burns, broken bones, open wounds, and more. 24 hours, 7 days a week with no appointment necessary. Peace of mind is important when life happens. At Doctors Hospital, we're always here just for you. Need to speak to someone? Call 949-6066.
Radio Cayman's Talk Today. What is on your mind, Cayman?
Hey, welcome back, and thanks very much for joining us. And in the studio, MP Chris Saunders joins us. And to our callers, not only who are listening and engaged, but they put in things as we continue the discussion, Mr. Saunders. A number of things were shared.
One of the persons, I want to thank the caller for speaking about investing in youth.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason why that is important to me is that I was one of them youths that got invested, that the country invested in. And that's one of the reasons why I wanted to enter into politics, not when I'm old and tired, but while I still have the fire in me, still have that vim, that vigor, that vitality to some extent. Nothing I hate more than to see after people retire, after making a whole pile of money in the private sector. And that's one of the reasons why, as much as I have always been, even on the political opposite side of Sir Alden, I have always commended him to the point where, at a time when many of his peers, and he himself could have gone out and made a ton of money in the private sector as a lawyer and so forth, he chose public service. It is a noble calling. It is difficult. It comes with its own challenges. You know what I mean? But like with anything else, you just have a thick skin and you just have to move on with it. And that's one of the reasons why Sir Alden has always had my respect. You look at some of the others, they wait till after they retired, made their millions or whatever. Then they're like, oh, I'm bored now, let me go serve. You know, Sir Alden didn't do that. And so a peak time of where you could have made a lot of money, he chose public service. And that in itself is commendable, especially when you see a lot of young people getting into that regard. So I like I said, I am a beneficiary of it. I receive a scholarship. My education was paid for by the people of this country. And I have a responsibility to give back to them at a point where I like to think that my brain is at its peak, operating point. But one of the things that people, when people keep calling and saying the government need to do this and the government need to do that, one of the first things, Sterling, that people need to accept is that we are the government. The people is the government. So when people say government should do this or government should do that, I sometimes turn around and say, okay, the people should do this. It's still a government of the people, for the people, and by the people. This is ordinary people, again, just doing extraordinary things with, having a different job. But at the end of the day, it is still everyone being engaged, and we need to hold our politicians account. Because I can tell you, one MP I remember at a community meeting brought the commissioner out. Commissioner brought his people out and they don't show up. When you do keep events in the community and people, to give people information, they don't show up. It is a lot of people taking their time out to plan these events. Sometimes these things cost money. People need to come up, people need to get engaged and so forth. And like I said, I look back at for my crash course, and as shameful as it is, like I said, it was less than 20. More, I think maybe 15, 16, 17, but it was less than 20 people that reached out and said, you know what, we're glad to see you doing something about the child molesters. It's a problem in this country. Versus over 400 people reaching out. You're right, we should be getting these free World Cup football game. And I'm like, where's the priority?
20-fold difference, huh?
You know what I mean? Yeah. Big difference. You know what I mean? So, and again, I look back at the same immigration issue. When we do put our foot down and the knives come out and the people come for you, no one gets up and defend, but yet at the same time, that's what they want. No, if I'm doing it and I'm taking licks and nobody's defending it, the message is sent out to politicians is, well, maybe that's not so popular. Maybe I shouldn't be doing it. But quietly, everybody will sit down and say to you, and Sterling, this is one of the reasons why I have to single out one MP in particular, Kenneth Bryan. When we had first came into government, we're still in COVID, and we had over 3,000 people on stipend. And we put our foot down, like saying, you know what, we're not giving out any work permits. Renewals is fine because people are already on island, they need to take care of themselves. And it's not like people could have traveled, go home and all that kind of stuff as easy. So they were stuck here. And a lot of people in the tourism industry was upset. They met with us, and I can tell you, Kenneth was there and everyone else who were there basically made it clear that this is what the situation is. You're not getting your work permits. They went behind our backs, started meeting with other senior civil servants and so forth, said very disparaging things about, Minister Bryan and myself, which is fine. Everyone is entitled to their opinion. Kenneth is also a big boy. He can defend himself too. And I remember when the pressure was really coming to bear, I was inside my chief officer's office, and, he raised the issues, the concerns that were coming in. And I said, okay, I'm the Minister for Labour. I don't want to do something that's going to affect another minister, because ultimately the tourism industry is Minister Bryan responsibility. He was in his office today. I called him. I said, Kenneth, you got a minute? I'm down in West's office. Can you come down here? He said, okay, no problem. I'll come down. Comes in. He said, Chris, what's up? I said, well, Kenneth, this is the situation. The pressure is coming to bear. We're holding firm on the work permits. It's your industry. I don't want to make a decision that's going to affect your ability to deliver. Tell me what does he want me to do? Because, I don't want to do anything that will be detrimental to you. Kenneth paused, looked at me and says, this what you call me down here for? Tell you right now. Don't give nobody no work permit. Our people need to get jobs first. Our people need to come first. I said, Minister Bryan, try and get us all over here. I turned to West and I said, you heard from the minister, I'm out. you can let the board know this is our position. Like I said, when the knives came out and the lick started, Kenneth defended me that night. Bernie Bush defended me that night. And I'm not going into anything of who said what otherwise. All I can say to you is those are the two gentlemen. But like with anything else, you take it. Because at the end of the day, I know what it is like for people not to have a job. I went through a time in my life, and I can tell anybody this, where I left one job and applying for jobs elsewhere. Took a package, place I was working was closing down. I had 5 job offers, and all of them was along the lines, Chris, are you going to be involved in politics? If you're going to, we don't want this kind of attention in our company. I could have easily lied to them and said, nah, I'm not going to do it, and then tell them, oh, I changed my mind, and that kind of stuff. But I was honest with them to say, no, I'm going to be involved in politics. For the simple fact that the people of this country paid for my education so I could come back and make a difference, or at least try to make a difference, or at least do something. But I was not just going to be one of them that was going to be quiet, we shut up type thing. As you can see, I'm going to tell you straight up, one of my superpowers is I can take licks, and I can give them too.
A lot of partner.
You know? So I started that to say, this is why it's important for people to be engaged. Now, the Consumer Protection Bill, like I said, I can't take credit for it other than the fact that the bill was about 98% complete, and we just went through and finished it. The bill itself is broken down into, I think, 15 parts. 15 parts. Just to quickly go through it, and I know we've been trying to get on it. Part 1 deals with the preliminary stuff, and of course it's available online too. In Part 2 of the bill, we do the establishment and functions of the Consumer Affairs Commission. Part 3 deal with consumer complaints. Part 4 deal with rights of the consumer. Part 5 is consumer guarantees in relation to supply of goods. Part 6, consumer remedies when supplier guarantee is breached. Part 7, consumer remedies when manufacturing guarantees is breached. Part 8, consumer guarantees in respect of services. Part 9, consumer remedies for breach of services guaranteed. Part 10, duties of suppliers. Part 11, unfair trade practices. Part 12, unfair contract terms. Part 13 deals with recall of goods. Part 14 deals with distance selling. And Part 15 is miscellaneous. You know, and one of the issues with this bill that has kind of given me a little bit of pause, if I'm going to be brutally honest. And like I said, the bill was pretty much complete. And I just decided, you know what? It's been sitting there. It was paid for by the people of the country. And someone had even pinched me to say that, oh, Chris, they were trying to come after you for plagiarizing or whatever. I'm like, but I didn't tell anybody that I created this bill. It was there, and I just decided to finish it. You know what I mean? But the one thing in this bill that gave me a little bit of pause, you know what I mean, and kind of borrow from one MP, you always say, you know, don't let the perfect be the enemy of the good. Is the bill perfect? No. But it's better than what we have, because right now we have nothing. But the one thing in this bill that kind of gives me a pause is that it doesn't touch on the financial services. It doesn't touch on banks. And if there's one entity more than anything that needs to, where this bill needs to be amended to deal with, is definitely the banks and the charges that it is that they have. And that's one of the things that we're working on now. And the whole idea of having a consultation is to get the feedback. You know what I mean? And, you know, the natural thing sometimes is when you do something, you put a lot of effort into something, and then the person comes behind and just criticizes it. But I'm like, you know what? The person is right. The banks need to be included. The first person who raised it to me, I can tell you, when I sent it out, was Dr. Steve Macfield, that is. I remember there's also Dr. Steve Tomlinson, too. Was Dr. Steve Macfield, where he called me and he said, Chris, the banks are left out. The banks need to be dealt with. And at the time I said to him, you know, Doc, we're looking at a separate legislation in terms of the banks, because one of the things that we found out, Sterling, is that this is not a problem unique to Cayman. And what Cayman people need to recognize is this. The banks that we have operate in a multi-jurisdiction. A lot of them are regional banks. And last year, one of the reasons why I wanted to go to the regional CPA conference in Turks and Caicos was to meet the other regional politicians. And we recognize, because you sit down, you have the social gatherings, you have your meetings, then your billion network, is that all of us literally had the same problem with all the banks were basically charging all of these different fees and everything else. You know what I mean? And we said, you know what, let us see what we can work on. So we started actually sharing legislation with each other in terms of, you know, what we're working on. I mean, granted, some countries are more advanced than others. I mean, Turks, we use Basel II in Cayman, Basel III to some extent. Turks is still using Basel I. So Basel I, Basel I is like the rules surrounding how banks are regulated and so forth. So, you know, so where Turks and Caicos is and where Cayman is two different things. You know what I mean? We literally have a banking sector that, you know, provides a global service, whereas they're mostly for their domestic consumption. So it's a matter of finding the balance, because it's not a one-size-fits-all. And everyone is at different stages. And that is the one thing I must say that this bill really lacks. And I can't in good conscience say, you know what, we're just going to push this through because it's nice to check a box to say, yeah, I got this done, without that being being excluded from it.
If I may, Susan says need a break. There's two things I want to ask about it and revisit, you know, the bill versus a motion. You alluded to it this time and last. But we want to ask about that, and then we also want to ask about the present composition of the bill.
Yeah, no problem.
So, listeners, stay tuned. Mr. Saunders has cleared his calendar. He'll be with us until, I think, next week, Wednesday. Stay tuned for Talk Today.
This spring, say hello to Los Angeles. Explore foodie havens, local markets, art exhibitions, cultural shows, theater, you name it. Getting to LA is easy with 2 non-stop flights weekly aboard Cayman Airways. Midweek airfares are now on sale from just $410 CI round trip. Some conditions apply. Check out our socials for more inspiration and visit CaymanAirways.com to book. Now is the time to see LA your way.
The Cayman Airways LA midweek sale has been extended until February 24th.
Ladies and gentlemen, have you heard the news? Digicel is back with exciting offers that are too good to resist. Activate one of our brand new prepaid or postpaid plans today and experience telecommunications like never before. With more data, dedicated entertainment options like Netflix, YouTube, Spotify, and endless social text data for all your favorite platforms. Digicel is here to make sure you stay connected and entertained. Whether you are on a prepaid or postpaid, you will also enjoy dedicated roaming data for the USA, Canada, and the Caribbean. It's all about value, and Digicel has got you covered.
Freedom, Cayman Brack. Freedom, Little Cayman. Soft breezes, blue waters, no traffic. Unwind and rejuvenate your mind, body, and soul. Sister Island Staycations, a taste of freedom. Discover all that our sister islands have to offer.
The 2024 Cayman Arts Festival is here, celebrating 20 years of world-class performing arts in the Cayman Islands. From February 18th through March 1st, featuring 8 unique performances, a mix of Cayman and international renowned musicians. View the full lineup of events or get your tickets at www.caymanartsfestival.com. For more information, call 922-5550 or email inquiries@caymanartsfestival.com. The 2024 Cayman Arts Festival, February 18th through March 1st.
At Doctors Hospital, we know life happens, and usually when you least expect it. So when unexpected medical issues arise, you need quality care close to home. Located in the heart of Georgetown, our accomplished team of physicians and medical staff treat minor urgent conditions such as migraines, chest and abdominal pain, shortness of breath, burns, broken bones, open wounds, and more. 24 hours, 7 days a week with no appointment necessary. Peace of mind is important when life happens. At Doctors Hospital, we're always here just for you. Need to speak to someone? Call 949-6066.
Find your dream car with a Cayman National Vehicle Loan. Enjoy 100% financing, up to 8-year repayment, and a 7% fixed interest rate for the first 5 years. For eco-friendly cars, we'll waive your commitment fee. This only applies to new vehicles. Call 949-8300 or email lending@caymannational.com today.
Radio Cayman's Talk Today. What is on your mind, Cayman?
Hey, welcome back. And in the studio, I'm P. Chris Saunders as a guest. And we have a couple of calls. We'll take them.
Yep.
Flip a coin? No, she's going to the phones first and then on WhatsApp. Hey, welcome. Thanks for calling.
Hello, good afternoon.
And to you. And to you.
Good afternoon, Mr. Ebanks. Good afternoon, MP Honorable Chris Saunders. This is Quincy Brown. I want to thank you, gentlemen, for taking my call.
Quincy, I love listening to you.
Most importantly, well, I thank you. Most importantly, I enjoy listening to you and listening to the evidence of the amount of work that you have put in formulating this draft bill. And I have not read it in its entirety, therefore I cannot comment thereto. However, having listened for the past half hour, my eyes are now opened and I'm intrigued and I'm interested in getting a copy so that I can familiarize myself with it. It's evident as I listen to you, Minister Saunders, that you have put time into this, and I would only like to encourage Caymanians, the electorate, voters, and those who cannot vote, but by the next general election you'll be able to vote, those off of cruise ships and aircraft visiting, those who want to make Cayman their home, read the draft, read the bill. Because when the ministers of government put time in, and of course a lot of lawyers put time in to draft something like this, to have a town hall meeting and only 5 or 15 persons come out, that's a crying shame. We want to come out in droves so that they have to say, well, town hall can hold no more. Thank you for the consumer protection. It is needed. Most importantly, we need a Caymanian protection law. I'm calling now from the steps of Parliament. You know where I am. It's a beautiful paint job here at the House of Parliament. And why I'm identifying where I'm at is simply this. I have nothing to hide. In my right hand, I have 2 newspapers. I have a daily planner, and I have a Christian devotional. And in my left hand, I'm holding a cell phone of which I'm making this call. Why I've called is Caymanians feel entrapped under a system that is no longer for them. Yes, the lawyer who called in, who was quite long-winded, he always makes salient points. We have lost the battle already, you know. I am cognizant of the fact that we are operating under a system that is owned by a Caymanian named Mr. Kenneth Dart. He owns 50% of the Cayman Islands, and we're also operating under, and I say this with due respect, we're also operating under a system known as the Jamaican Mafia. Having said that, I am court-ordered to live at a specific residence. On the 13th of May, 2023, I contravened the law. I pled guilty in the court of law. I have been to His Majesty's Northwood Prison. Why is it now that I wear a monitor on my left foot, of which the police know where I am right now, the Cayman Islands e-monitor system know where I am, and I'm letting everyone know that I'm on the steps of Parliament as I make this call? What has happened is I visited with my probation officer this morning, and there are 2 reports, which is fabricated, that I was not where I was supposed to be on 2 occasions. Now, I can prove by my family members and others and guess what? I have to be accountable to myself.
Mm-hmm.
Every 7 p.m. every day, I am where I'm supposed to be, even before time. So if it is the system that's trying to do me in, please, I ask in the name of Jesus Christ, my Lord and Savior, to cease and desist. What more do you want from me? I pled guilty. I am in the court of law, fully compliant. So I know that these monitors can malfunction, but let me not go into a conspiracy theory that they have been set to deliberately malfunction to try to dig me deeper in a hole, because I am fully compliant. I am where I am supposed to be. I have nothing to hide. Why is it The system is stacked against Caymanian. His Majesty's Northwood is a homeless shelter. I can call as a journalist, all right? I can call as a victor of the system, because guess what? I refuse to use the term a victim of the system. I am not a victim. I am a victor, and I will come out of this victorious. The system will not get me down. They're trying to trip me up. My ankle bracelet, my monitor is on my left foot, so the powers that be know that I'm at the steps of Parliament right now. What's going on? Stay woke. Election 2025, 2029. Youth quake, young people rise. MP Saunders, keep up the good work. You're on the right thing.
Thank you, Quincy. You keep pushing through. You keep pushing through, my brother.
All right. So, Ms. Susan, call. All right. All right, so we're going to take the break. There's a call. So, can we take the call quickly, Ms. Susan? So, yeah, we're not going to be in trouble. We take it quickly and I cut it off. All right. She's like, yeah, she's in a... We have to quickly take the WhatsApp call. Welcome. Thank you. Yeah, hello? Okay. All right, this is it. Oh, but we'll come back to that. I know MP Saunders, once we come back from the news break, we want to go through the legislation.
Yep.
So we're going to ask our callers to just listen and be attentive, right?
Yep.
There's some salient points. But as we go into the break, and she tells me we're ready for it, can I ask, just for clarity, for those of us who don't know, usually as you shared, bills, just even hearing that, were normally something that was brought by the members of the government. This is proposed legislation that's being brought by a private member, non-government.
Yep.
But as a bill. So two things. How is that possible, and what's the importance of it versus a motion?
No, well, first of all members of Parliament can carry a bill. I mean, that is the advantage of being a member of Parliament. If you look at other parliaments, like primarily look at the UK also, because I was going to their website to see what it is that they're doing, because I know it's like that. I do that to other governments to see what they're doing too. We are the only ones that basically carry motions, but they have the resources in their parliament that allow them to actually work on bill, because it takes so long to even get something on the floor that you're not going to be wasting time carrying a motion to ask the government to consider it. You're giving the government a piece of legislation and say, get this passed and go implement it. So this for us is our next step in terms of the maturity of our parliament. I think Sir Alden has done a wonderful job in the sense of elevating us from a legislative assembly to a parliament. But now it's for us to take it to the next level now of really stepping up the parliament and in essence start carrying more bills. Now that again requires resources. That requires a parliament to start having resources there to actually assist members and so forth in terms of these drafting and everything else. So,
all right. Fisher thought you were to use.
So that's pretty much the main thing. But like I said, it is costly, it's very time consuming, and it's not something that's easy to do. The first person who did it was actually Honorable Truman Bodden, and of course, I mean, he has resources and he has a law firm, so he could have done it. But I can tell you, like I said, just to finish this and see what it took, I was like, I can understand now why. I have a lot of respect for Eliza Blake and them who actually draft these things from scratch.
Right. Well, as we shared, when we come back for the news, MP Saunders will take us through the legislation, highlight the salient points, and then hopefully come away in a better informed position. Stay tuned for Talk Today.
www.radiocayman.gov.ky. Check out our social media pages: Facebook, YouTube, X, formerly Twitter, Radio Cayman Headline News.
With your latest headlines, I'm Dwayne Ebanks. The Department of Vehicle and Driver's Licensing Crew Road location will be open on Saturdays starting on the 2nd of March for the replacement of temporary and old registration number plates. The location will only be exchanging the temporary and registration number plates on Saturday, March 2nd, March 9th, March 16th, and March 23rd. The opening hours will be from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. In international news, Russian President Vladimir Putin has given North Korea leader Kim Jong-un a luxury Russian-made car. Pyongyang's state media said that the limousine was delivered to Mr. Kim's top aides on Sunday. Kremlin spokesperson Dmitry Peskov later confirmed the gift, saying it was an Aurus, a full-size luxury sedan of the type used by Mr. Putin himself. The two international isolated countries have forged close relations since Russia's invasion of Ukraine. North Korea is thought to be supplying Russia with artillery, rockets, ballistic missiles for the war, despite international sanctions on both countries. Both sides deny breaching sanctions. The most luminous object ever detected has been spied in the distant universe. It's a quasar, the bright core of a galaxy that is powered by a gargantuan black hole some 17 billion times the mass of our sun. Known as J0529-4351, the object's power was confirmed in the observations by the Very Large Telescope in Chile. Scientists reporting in the journal Nature Astronomy says the black hole has a voracious appetite, consuming the mass equivalent to one sun every day. That's a look at your latest headlines. I'm Dwayne Ebanks.
Radio Cayman. More news available at www.radiocayman.gov.ky. Check out our social media pages: Facebook, YouTube, X, formerly Twitter, Radio Cayman Headline News. From boat days to beach gatherings, leave the catering to Subway. Choose from small and large sandwich platters, double meat wrap platters, and top it off with optional cookie platters for dessert. Or ask about our Subway box to go with the option of 6-inch or foot-long sandwich, 1 cookie, and 1 bag of chips for all occasions and celebrations. Let Subway focus on the food so you can focus on the fun. Visit subway.ky for catering options. Subway. Eat fresh. Ladies and gentlemen, have you heard the news? Digicel is back with exciting offers that are too good to resist. Activate one of our brand new prepaid or postpaid plans today and experience telecommunications like never before. With more data, dedicated entertainment options like Netflix, YouTube, Spotify, and endless social text data for all your favorite platforms. Digicel is here to make sure you stay connected and entertained. Whether you are on a prepaid or postpaid, you will also enjoy dedicated roaming data for the USA, Canada, and the Caribbean. It's all about value, and Digicel has got you covered.
Do you own a 1996 to 2016 Honda vehicle? There is an ongoing urgent safety recall regarding faulty Takata airbags that can seriously injure occupants in Honda vehicles. Please go to hondacayman.com/recalls to check if your vehicle is affected. The automotive industry continues to face an unprecedented challenge in the recall and replacement of millions of Takata airbag inflators. Honda is committed to addressing the needs and concerns of our customers who are affected by this safety issue. Honda stands behind the safety and quality of our products. The protection of the drivers and passengers in Honda vehicles is our paramount concern. Please go to hondacayman.com/recalls or call us at 949-5525 to check if your vehicle is affected by this urgent Honda safety recall.
This spring, say hello to Los Angeles. Explore foodie havens, local markets, art exhibitions, cultural shows, theater, you name it. Getting to LA is easy with 2 non-stop flights weekly aboard Cayman Airways. Midweek airfares are now on sale from just $410 CI round trip. Some conditions apply. Check out our socials for more inspiration and visit CaymanAirways.com to book. Now is the time to see LA your way.
The Cayman Airways LA midweek sale has been extended until February 24th.
Social media, X, formerly Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. Interact with our talk shows on YouTube. Download our official Radio Cayman app, or you can log on to our website, www.radiocayman.gov.ky. You can also add us to WhatsApp
on 925-3261.
All the latest information, breaking news, community events, and more. Radio Cayman. Radio Cayman's Talk Today. What is on your mind, Cayman?
Hey, welcome back, and thanks very much to MP Saunders for joining us. We do have initial 2 calls. We'll take the WhatsApp call, and then the other one. Let's go to the WhatsApp. Welcome. Thanks for calling. Yeah, hello.
Good afternoon, Dwayne.
Hey, good afternoon. How are you today?
Okay, and you?
Oh, man. Excellent, man. Enjoying the day. Hopefully, you can hear us okay.
Yeah, man. Good afternoon to Mr. Saunders too.
Afternoon, bro.
Yeah. Well, concerning the port and a referendum asking whether the people agree to build a new cruise ship port or not. Well, the last referendum that we had going when the PPM were in power, the coronavirus came in. And that right there was a sign given to us, which I believe was telling us that we should not build that port. And when it comes to digging the port in order to be able to allow the biggest cruise ship in the world to dock there, that's going to take a lot of digging in that area. And what we've seen from the last Northwester that we had, it was serious. And I think if we do any serious dredging right there in central Georgetown, I think it's a possibility that the waves could reach as far as McDonald's restaurant. I honestly believe so. So I think we should be grateful for the amount of cruise ships we have coming in now and keep the port as it is. I mean, if they want to put the cargo port in East End, I would agree with that. But I have a question, Mr. Saunders. When you were deputy premier and the financial minister, were you able to get the figures to see how much money worth of concessions that the government has given away for the last 15 to 20 years?
Short answer is no, because it's not something that's actually tracked. But what I can say to you as when I was there, the number that they got was zero.
The number that you got
was
zero?
No, what I'm saying, no, we didn't go back, because there's a general rule in politics that says there's no future in the past. I mean, the last government was pretty much penalized for it at the polls. So I don't think the exercise was necessary for us to go back to say, well, this is what they gave away. What I can say to you is that when I was Minister of Finance, the concessions that was given to developers was zero. Basically, we didn't give them any.
Okay.
Yeah, that I can say.
The worst thing you can do as a leader of a country is take over people's money and give it to the rich, And about 5 years ago, the Auditor General, the lady, she made a report in the Cayman Compass, and she said, for all the concessions that have been given away, the Caymanians have nothing to show for it. Thank you very much, gentlemen.
Thanks for listening and calling. Mr. Saunders?
Let's make a quick comment on that. No, well, one is right about the cruise ship. That's something that I was against when it was proposed, and it's something that I remain against. I think it's too close to the 7 Mile Beach, one, and two, we can't afford to risk 7 Mile Beach. The other thing is, if you kind of look at and again, I'm going from memory now, from the time when we were dealing with it back then, but when you go through and you look at the the Caribbean Cruise Association,
the FCC,
yeah, normally does an economic study.
Mm-hmm.
It shows the impact of cruise tourism to the different islands, and at all points, Cayman was always in the top 5 in many different categories. And one of the things that I remember jumping out to me was, sorry, the feedback, was that when we looked at ports where most of the passengers came off was like the Bahamas, I think had like about over 90%. When you look at Cayman, the percentage of passengers that came off was right up there also. We were also the top 5 in terms of spend. But when you actually break the spend down, well, first of all, compared to stay over, it is nothing compared to stay over.
Mm-hmm.
And when we actually look in terms of how long it would take for the port to pay for itself, based on what it is that government was collecting, it was literally, it would have been way too long. That's the first thing. And then secondly, just to kind of put something in there to comparison. And again, going by memory, when we're looking at it, the government was making about 11, 12, 13 million a year. Now, granted, the port fees, well, the money that we collected from the cruise ship were divided into 3 groups. The government part get for revenues, the port got theirs, and then the tender company got theirs. So I'm just speaking about the portion that government received, which was around 11 to 13 million dollars a year. Why I bring that up? Ritz-Carlton, again, I guess I could put it out there, I can call it. What we make from the Ritz-Carlton a year in tourism accommodation tax is literally almost close to what the central government makes in terms of revenues from the cruise. Now, the second thing about it is you also have to look at the indirect impact in terms of the amount of jobs it creates. The cruise industry does create a lot of jobs for Cayman. There's the ifs, ands, and buts about that. But ultimately, I think where Cayman bread and butter and future of tourism really lies is in the stay-over tourism. Because I think, again, going from memory, the average spend on a cruise passenger in Cayman was like around just under $200 US per person. But then when you break that, the actual spend down in terms of how that 200 was divided up, the majority of it was going to the duty-free goods. And when we actually looked at it, I mean, think about only about 20-something million or so was actually going to tours or so forth when you break it down. So we are looking at what money remains in the country versus what leaves the country. And the circulation of that cruise money, and then you look at what the port would actually cost, it would have been the payback period would have been a very long time. I think ultimately where we need to get to is 1 million stay-over tourism tourists. I would love to see we get there by at least about 2030, but that will require, one, a study in terms of the infrastructure. Again, going from memory, the last time I looked at the tourism numbers, we had roughly 7,000 properties, 10,000 rooms, and 20,000 beds. It's pretty much what we had. So we did not have the carrying capacity to take, the numbers that we would like, especially recognizing that a lot of them is seasonal to some extent. You know what I mean? So, and this is why I said in my budget address, I like Minister Branca. He has a very big long-term outlook, and that's where we need to get to. But we need to look at the infrastructure. We need to look at what the airport can take. And then we also, people talk about, go east in terms of development. But then you have to look at the infrastructure between where the room stock would be and where the airport would be and everything else. That's the reason why I said, if you're not going to spend the money on the infrastructure between the airport and the eastern districts, then you have to look at maybe building heights on 7 Mile Beach, but not on the beach side. What I would ultimately love to see is that we develop on the non-beach side, go much higher, and then limit the development on the beach side. And I think, when those properties in the beach side comes up for renewal or whatever, when people go to redevelop it, we just say, you know what, we're not going to allow it. So when the building naturally does this 20, 30, 40 years or whatever, we just don't want to allow any more development, and the next 2 generations can actually thank us return the beach to them.
But isn't it interesting that in Cayman, a concrete structure like a condo, 20 to 25 years, In Europe, you got centuries. Even in the US, you got 50, 100 years. We got a building here built, concrete.
The thing about it is, I'm going to borrow something because, and again, what I just said, I'm not going to sit back and tell you it's an original idea because I do spend a lot of time up looking at other countries and stealing what it is that they do. Spain, for example, the Spanish people decided that they wanted their beaches back, and they started limiting development on the beach side.
Mm-hmm.
And what the Spanish government did through the Spanish Exim Bank, Export and Import Bank, they started funding hotel developments in places like Jamaica, in places like Mexico. And so you look at all the Rio hotels and so forth in Jamaica that are basically Spanish owned, is because they decided that they wanted their beaches back for their citizens. But then the government also put in places measures of financing ability for those companies to basically go and build those hotels elsewhere that will allow people to be on the beach. And they have all of these like charter flights. I mean, between Cuba, you have it in Mexico, you have it in Jamaica, and so forth. We have all these all-inclusives and so forth. But the Spanish people wanted their beaches back. I don't think the Cayman should be any different in the sense that we should be able to get our beaches back. No, where the development is, it is what it is. But the good thing about countries and the good thing about democracies and the good thing about laws is that you can pass a law that basically says, you know what, when we go back to do these redevelopment, we're going to limit the heights of the building, or we'll limit what development can happen on the beach side. So while this generation may not benefit from it, I think if we lay the foundation now, future generations will benefit in terms of getting the beaches back, because you see what's happening right now. But again, that is a separate study that you need to look at to see the infrastructure, the carrying capacity of the island, and wherever we can take it. Because the airport itself is limited in terms of even where the runway can be, unless you decide to go to the north sound or you're going to go backwards and so forth to get extended runway. Ideally, you want to get more European and Asian customers, tourists, because they're the ones who normally spend a longer time. The Americans generally do like 3 to 5 days. Europeans will do like 2 to 3 weeks. So you want people with a good spending amount. And I think going back from memory, the average stay over spend was like about $600, $700, $800 compared to like about $200. Again, these are in US. And again, I'm going from memory, but it was significantly way more. But like I said, we do have a great DOT department, and like I said, I mean, Rosa and our team does a great job. Minister Brian, I can tell anybody, having worked with him both in opposition and in government, is fired up. He's very passionate about it, but it's about growing it. But the most important thing, though, and I'm glad the caller bring it up, is not just a matter of growing a tourism product, but growing a tourism product where our people benefit. And I think that is really where the issue is. Mm-hmm. And the reason why and I know my answer may be long-winded, but why that is something that's personal to me is that my father was a bartender at Holiday in Sadie. He had 5 kids, and from his bartender salary, my father was able to send 5 kids off to college. I mean, granted, 3 of us also got government scholarships too. But I have a copy of his salary letter back in 1983 as a bartender, making $1,000 a month. I literally have that letter keep on my phone. And here we are now, literally 40 years later. And you look at the minimum wage and so forth, bartenders not making that in terms of a base salary, but with tips and everything else, yes. But you go back to 1983 where you were making $1,000, that you could have 5 kids and send them to school. And this is why it's important for us now to start really owning back this product. And Sterling, this is why I said what I said on Friday. And people don't like when I say it, but I'm going to say it. And the reason I can afford to say it is I've already taken enough licks for my position, so one more lick not going to matter to me. If our people, if our Caymanians can get opportunities to benefit in this country, nobody should. When people talk about Caymanians about feeling entitled, they should. Where else should they feel entitled? Where else should they feel entitled to a job? Where else should they feel entitled to live, work, and be happy? We can't go to Canada, we can't go to the US, we can't go to different places and feel entitled. This is the only place on this planet we can feel entitled. But then they want people to feel bad for wanting certain things. No, there's a difference between feeling entitled and entitlement. Those are clear. Because one, you basically have to earn, and that's why I said it's always has to be about equal opportunity. We can't guarantee equal outcomes. But what we can fight for is equal opportunity. And the one thing that we have really failed in our position is that we have not given many of our people have not gotten equal opportunity to live their best life. And that's why I was thanking Ms. Teresa on Friday for the work that she was doing on the Labour Appeals Tribunal, because she saw the shortcomings in many of the laws. And when we talk about some of these issues, Caymanians don't want to hear it. And it's until when it's either something has happened to them or something has happened to one of their family members is when they get involved with it. And that has always been the issues. Many of the issues we're raising today, I can tell you, was raised long before. I remember Roy and Gilbert from days when I was out there campaigning for them, raising many of these issues. And the very people that, some of them I do remember by face. I remember when we were championing some of these very issues, we just shut the door in our face. They didn't want to hear it. And here I am now, 20 years later, representing these same people. And now they're saying to me, yeah, Chris, this is not an issue. And I'm like, well, Roy and Gilbert said it to you,
We do have some calls, Mr. Saunders.
Oh, yeah. Sorry.
No.
Sorry for the long answer. I apologize.
I think the callers wanted to hear what you shared as well. Yeah. To our callers, we apologize for you hanging on, but I know you.
We take the call.
We take the call. Welcome. Thanks for calling.
Hi.
Hey, sir. How are you?
Afternoon.
Not bad. I guess today we're going into overtime.
You cleared out with Susan? I'm at work,
Interesting comments. I particularly the frustrations of Mr. Saunders regarding public participation in an essential institution for good governance. And it is frustrating to watch people just sit there and act like they don't need to participate. And I hope that changes one day, because it's an expression of a degree of ignorance that is just outstanding. We have a situation where we are at a place where some chief officers believe that they don't even need to reply to complaints. I filed a complaint with the Ministry of Health back in early December, and I got zero response. It was as if I had done nothing. And it's about lawlessness. It's about people who feel that they are above the law. I'm gonna give you some advice that's not new to you, Mr. Saunders. But I hope the public pays close attention. Because when you reach a point where lawlessness just gets ignored, disaster is around the corner. Because as you rightly said just now, it mightn't be something that's affecting you specifically today, but your turn will come. And when it comes, that the general public will understand why the participation that you're lamenting, or the lack of participation that you're lamenting, needs to be addressed. It has to do with the chief medical officer. He wrote a letter, and he's acting as if somehow he can write a letter that obligates private businesses to obey what he has said. Now, as far as I understand, the only thing that can make the public obey something is a law or a regulation. And cabinet has to make regulations, and the legislature has to make laws.
That is correct.
He is not a legislator, and he is not a member of cabinet. Now, there is a view And this is having tremendous impact on people who are in situations of vulnerability regarding their medication. And he is claiming that under Section 14 of the Misuse of Drugs Law, that he could make a rule to say that pharmacies must do this and pharmacists must do that, and they can't do this and they can't do that. Well, my understanding is that he could give cabinet advice about what he thinks ought to be done, but he can't do it himself. Yet, he seems to be doing it himself, and cabinet is doing nothing about it. It's lawlessness. And if we continue to accept the lawlessness, how is it that we could do that when accept it for a civil servant, but when somebody from West Bay decides they're going to do whatever, or somebody from East End decides they're going to do whatever, you prosecute them, but you remain silent with those wearing a necktie?
Mm-hmm.
Now, I sent you, Mr. Saunders, a copy of the legal opinion that I submitted as part of the complaint against the chief medical officer.
Where sent it to? Sorry.
Your WhatsApp.
Okay.
And it should be addressed.
Mm-hmm. Could we invite Mr. Saunders have a look at it? It's something he wants to address publicly. I know Errol and Sunday will be, willing to extend the discussion, but we're ending
today, yeah.
shortly. Any final points, and then we just have to end today's discussion?
Yeah, I mean, there's plenty I'd like to say, but
I sense that, sir.
since Susan is not going to extend us.
No, not Susan, man.
I'll
she says she's willing to.
I'm just.
I know.
I will say this, D, before you leave. I just want to publicly thank you for always being engaging, and I wish we had more people that would engage at the level that you engage in, and I hope to God you never stop, because this is the only way for our system to get better. It's the only way.
Right. What we need to somehow, I don't know how, because so far the impact has been limited on impressing upon people why they need to be interested in what's happening in their country. We're gonna one day be looking through the window to a party going on inside to which none of us are invited if we don't wake up.
You assume we can get to close to the window to see it?
That's true.
All right.
And take care.
That's the reason I said
you, Mike.
what I said.
Thank you.
And who want vex can vex.
And to the listeners, I mean, I know I give Miss Susan a warm time. We have a scheduled time for the talk show. I think many of us would like sometimes for it to continue, but it runs into the programming. To our callers and to our guests, whether they're parliamentarians or otherwise, we publicly appreciate your time. We respectfully recognize that we have, certain parameters to work within. But Mr. Saunders, to the last caller, I mean, you can share, but he's speaking to something that was alluded to earlier. I'll let you speak as you wish, then maybe ask me specifically.
Yeah, the thing about it is, Denny has raised a very valuable point, and I can say to you, having been in government for 2 years, and again, I'm going to use the work permit as a situation, where to give Sir Alden, to give Jack his jacket, that constitution that we got in 2009 devolved a lot of responsibility to the elected government. Prior to the 2009 constitution, both the Legislative Assembly and the Cabinet, and before that referred to as EXCO, was advisory to the governor. All the power in this country was vested in the governor. In the 2009 constitution, except for those that was mentioned in section 55, that deals with internal security, civil service management, and external affairs. Everything was devolved to the elected government. So in essence, we had more responsibility. We were no longer advisory. And to give Sir Alden his credit again, you know what I mean, from that standpoint, we had made a decision, you know what I mean, and as I said, I used the example about Minister Bryan as the Minister for Tourism and myself as Minister of Labour, who had the constitutional responsibility for those two areas, and guided again by policy. And just so we're clear, 3 months after the general election, the government created what you call a strategic policy statement. That is something that's required by law, that sets out the government's policy as a precursor to preparing an actual budget, which we basically did and we complied with. And those were issues that we put inside a strategic policy statement. So one of the things I've always said to people is that when you look at the strategic policy statement document itself, I used to say this to my colleagues. They used to bring every single thing back to cabinet. I'm like, guys, there's a strategic policy statement that says we're going to do this as a policy. That document was approved by the cabinet of the Cayman Islands. It was approved by the Parliament of the Cayman Islands, because you also have to table it and get it approved and everything else. So the policy is clear. So every time you want to come back and you come back to cabinet with something policy related, I'm like, guys, it's already included, already said we're going to do this. And we were clear in terms of what our priorities were. And one of the advantages that the then PAC government had was that no one expected us to have formed the government. And as a result, we didn't have that much special interest winding themselves into the government or weave themselves into the government at that time. And of course, everyone was expecting them to fall apart and this and that and the whole 9 yards. But those are policies that we said we were going to pursue. It's difficult when the elected government sits down and says that these are the policies that we're going to do. It's approving cabinet and table in the legislative table in parliament. And then when those policies are being carried out, senior civil servants is meeting behind our backs with the members of the private sector. Because I can tell you, I had a very strong conversation with one senior civil servant to basically say, listen, stay out of my sandbox. This is our position on immigration. If you got a problem with it, go put your $1,000 up, go get yourself elected, become part of a government, and put your policy through. This is what we have to face the public with. We don't have job security. Every 4 years, we need to go and prove to the people what we did in the last 4 years and then look for another 4 years. We don't have those security. We don't have that. And those are the challenges where people turn to us and say, we want you guys to tackle this. But then there is a beast inside there. And I can tell you, I would like to say it's unique to Cayman, it is not. I listened to Obama's interview once. He was complaining about the federal employees. You listen to Margaret Thatcher, she complained about the civil servants in the UK. I've had other Caribbean governments where we have had sat down and have informal conversation with them, and they tell me the same thing too, where they themselves struggle with the people who have that mindset. And the reason why I say what I say is that people need to understand, for those in the private sector, there's no job security. You know what I mean? You need to understand that. You need to understand where people are coming from. I remember one situation, I'll never forget it, where I had a constituent that puts on events, filed his paperwork for a particular show. A month passed, he has heard nothing. He called me up, the show I think was a Friday night, he called me up the Wednesday. And he says to me, well, Chris, I'm struggling, I have money invested in this show, my work permits have not been approved. He called me on a Wednesday night. I tell him to send me all this stuff, I forward it to the relevant people and ask him to deal with it. Give the man a decision, yes or no, but the man can't be in limbo. I remember when I forwarded it to somebody, and then I called him up to make sure they got the message. First thing on the person's mouth, do you know how much money he makes off of these shows? What concern of that is yours? The man is Caymanian. And this is not even new, this is a generational Caymanian, this is somebody I grew up with. This is what he does as a side hustle. What do you care how much money he makes off of it? And this is the reason, Sterling, why I said in that video, I said, the one thing that has been destroying this country more than anything is bad mind. We have reached a point in this country we can't be happy for anybody.
With that, Mr. Saunders, to that point, to Mr. Warren's point earlier, there's the window, a big Mr. in front of the second. Parties going on, we can't see. Unity, the inability for us to have a difference of opinion and to discuss without it being vitriolic, without being divided. What's your perspective?
I'm going to get a perspective. You think what is happening to us here didn't happen in other countries? And this is the point, and I'm going to use the Bahamas as an example. At some point, when the Caymanian people rise up, and this is why I said what I said to people who keep messing around with Caymanians, they're voters. I work for voters. You understand me? And if my voters say, Chris, this is the position we want you to defend, this is the position we want you to take, those are my bosses. And at some point, I tell you, and this is the reason why I said what I said, if our people can prosper in this country and get a piece of this pie, nobody's going to get none. It's as simple as that. That is my position at 51 years of age. And that's why I said earlier, when the person may have lost it, why I'm not going to sit down and tell you, Sterling, or tell the Caymanian people that every Caymanian can be rich. No, absolutely not. What I can say to you unequivocally, without one shadow of a doubt, with the amount of resources in this country and what we have, spending over $1 billion, no Caymanian need to be poor and no Caymanian need to be struggling the way they're struggling. And when you see an island this small with a population that can fit in a stadium, spending over $1 billion, and people's life are miserable and people are unhappy, at some point you have to ask yourself, isn't this deliberate? Just as though you and I are sitting here, you have people meeting in boardrooms right now thinking of ways in which to take people's hard-earned money. We got people in this country that have bought property that people have sold them. You can't get insurance for it. You buy a car, the car now working a big old lemon. This is the reason why this is necessary. This isn't just about the consumer protection. This is about start putting things in place for the working class. We sit down and we talk about every international standard that we want for the financial service in this. But what about international standards for the employees?
So there's one final question. One question is, in the legislation, at the last point that you got last, it says it doesn't refer to banks and those regulated by SEMA. That was the bill that was drafted. In the state that is in, why was that at that stage not amended?
I can tell you, if you can't even get this part through without the banks from 2016 when it was first drafted, without the banks, you think anybody wants to see this just in itself? Okay. Like I said, listen, I already took enough licks for this because I can tell you some messages I got from some people. I had some lawyer friends of mine call me up and he said, boy, Chris, he's a brave man, you're this. And listen, I don't mind it. Yeah. That's part of my superpowers. I can take the licks. You understand me? But at the end of the day, I'm going to tell you straight up. That's my position. All right. And what people need to recognize, many Caymanians start feeling the way I feel. And the day in which they decide, say, you know what, we're just going to show up and show out, people not going to like it.
Okay. I think this is maybe a trilogy at least. So you had part 1, part 2. Thanks.
Just let me know when you want me to come back.
I'll look at the schedule before we leave. Thanks to Mr. Saunders. Thank you, Ms. Susan. Nobody hold it against her. She's cheering for Mr. Saunders to have a show until tomorrow. But the show ends. Thank you for the extra minutes. And to our listeners, you know what? My closing remarks is be blessed, be involved, be informed, be engaged. Until tomorrow, be blessed.
Talk Today is brought to you by Subway, open 24 hours in Countryside, Anderson Square in Georgetown, and Centennial Towers in West Bay. And by the Ministry of District Administration. Explore your history, explore your land, explore your sister islands. And Cayman Airways. Call them on 949-2311 to book your nonstop flights to Los Angeles and Panama. And now, Barbados. And Digicel, Cayman's bigger, better network. And Doctors Hospital. Peace of mind is important when life happens. Doctors Hospital, always there for you. Call 949-6066.
Discover your dream home with Cayman National.